everybody, and welcome back to Teal House Farm. Today we're going to make some smoky jalapeno 3-bean bacon soup. So there's a lot of stuff on this table, and you do not need all of it to make the base of this soup. It's actually more of a chili. We really like it. It's really hearty. Let me show you what you have to have, and then I'll show you the extras. So the things that you absolutely have to make this delicious is bacon, 6 pounds of beans of any variety. So I am using red beans. I'm using a bag of 15 bean soup and some Great Northern beans. You need 2 quarts of tomato juice. So we have those. And you'll need some form of broth. So this is pork bone broth that I have from the pantry. Last time I made it, I used ham bone broth. Saltier the better, basically. The last thing that you absolutely have to have are obviously the hot peppers. So these are some sort of spicy banana pepper from my garden. I don't remember the variety. Jalapeños work, chilies work. We're gonna probably put about 5 or 6 of them in the soup to give you a reference. Now, you can make it just with those things, but I like to add some vegetables and some extras. So I have this random piece of ham left over from a dinner, so I'm gonna throw that in there. You don't need to add any sort of vegetables, but carrots do really well, so I really recommend those. And I really like adding some chopped up tomatoes because they just add to the flavor of the tomato juice. Then I have these random mini peppers from my garden. These are sweet, not spicy, and I'm going to use them up because the garden's basically closed up for the year. On top of that, you also need some salt and pepper, but other than that, it pretty much flavors itself thanks to the bacon. This soup is technically not USDA guideline following because of the bacon, but there is so little bacon. That's 6 ounces of bacon. It's like half of a package. Or excuse me, 8 ounces of bacon, half a package. It's so little bacon, I don't really see it as an issue. I'm not packing the jar with bacon. I'm just using it for flavoring. But if you are a true rule follower 100% of the way, this soup, stew, chili, whatever you want to call it, is not USDA approved because of the bacon, the cured bacon in it. The first step here is we need to get the beans ready. Now you can either soak them overnight, like the back of the bean bag says, the soak method, in cold water, or we're going to do the quick soak method. So we're going to rinse off all our beans, pull out any weird looking pieces, put them in a really big pot, and we're going to boil them for 2 minutes and then just let them sit in the hot water for an hour. First thing we need to do is get our jars ready. So I'm just washing them in hot soapy water. We're gonna put them on this tray, and then I just put them in a warm oven turned off just to keep them warm until we're ready to fill them. We're gonna cut up all our vegetables. Poor JJ really wanted to use the peeler, but she kept almost getting her fingers, so she got demoted to chopping. And while they're working on that, I'm gonna go ahead and drain these beans. So they boiled for 2 minutes, sat in the hot water for an hour, and now we're gonna drain out all of the liquid and get ready to put our soup/chili together. First thing we're going to do is 2 quarts of our home canned tomato juice. Yes, separation is very normal in home canned tomato juice. It hasn't gone bad. And then we're going to do 2 quarts of some sort of broth. So I'm doing pork bone broth today. Ham broth works really well. If you don't have any of that, you can do chicken, but you'll probably need to add extra salt to your final product. Then we're going to do 2 quarts of water. Now, if this doesn't look like enough liquid to you, you can add more, but I would recommend adding more tomato juice than anything else. Now we got to finish chopping all these vegetables. We got some sweet peppers, we got some onions, we also have the tomatoes and the hot spicy peppers. I am definitely going to handle the hot spicy peppers. The kids don't need to be cutting those, and I really should wear gloves, but I couldn't find any, so my technique is go super fast and immediately wash my hands, which honestly didn't work that well. My hands burned all day. Next up, we have our bacon. I'm just using kitchen scissors to cut it into thin strips for our soup. And last up, we have that little random bit of leftover ham, and I'm just going to cube it real fast. And then to give you just an idea of proportions here, let me show you. We have about 3 cups of all the meat, about 3 cups of the diced carrots, probably 2 cups of the peppers, and then that last bowl is the tomatoes and onions, which is about 3 cups again altogether. We're gonna dump our chopped vegetables and meat into the pot that we added the beans and all the liquid to. We're gonna give it a really good stir, and then we need to bring it to a boil. and then we'll simmer it for about 5 minutes. You have to have a lot of patience with this recipe. This is about 3.5 gallons of soup, so it takes a long time to get to a boil. So while we're waiting, we're gonna go ahead and do cleanup. We just need to clear off the table and drag all this stuff out to our compost pile. Today we're gonna use some superb lids. These are some of my absolute favorites. Real heavy duty lid, never buckles. I also have some generics that I had bought, and they work, they're okay. I don't love them, but I am running low on wide mouth lids, so we're gonna have to use these and hope they don't buckle, and if they do, we'll just put those jars in the fridge first. But a question I always get a lot is about prepping jars. So we are pressure canning today. And so to prep the jars, we wash them in hot soapy water. We just need to keep them warm. If you have a dishwasher, you can just keep them warm by not opening your dishwasher after you wash them. If you're like us and you don't have a dishwasher, you wash your lids and you wash your jars, and then you put the lids in a bowl of warm water. I have one right here. Bowl of warm water, and the ovens, or in the jars, are in the oven. I turned the oven on 200 and then turned it off and just sat the jars in the oven. It'll just keep them warm. You can also put them in a really big pot of water, like on the stove, but my stove isn't super big and I can't fit all that and what we're doing, so that's why I use the oven. So I hope that answers some questions. You do not need to sterilize the jars before pressure canning. That is an old recommendation that is not followed anymore. Okay, at this point, it's been brought to a boil and we simmered it 5 minutes. That helps make sure our bacon is cooked all the way through. And we're gonna give it just a tiny little taste test. So depending on the type of broth that you added, you might need to add some salt. If you use ham broth, and a lot of times like the pork broth, it's pretty darn salty. You don't need to add anything. But I always give it a taste test, and then if you feel like you need a little more salt, you can go ahead and add it. Mine is really salty, so I'm not going to add anything. But always check yours, because you know, broth can be variable depending on what you've added. And then if you added any salt, go ahead and do that. And now we're ready to put in our prepared jars. Pretty simple. You need to fill the jars to 1 inch headspace. It can be a little tricky to make sure you get a good proportion of the actual like beans and stuff and the liquid into the jar. So I use a ladle and try to get all of the beans in the jar and then put the broth over top. Then we're gonna wipe the rims and put on our lids, and then put on those rings, fingertip tightness, which is as tight as you can go, and a little oomph. And into the canner. We're gonna do a canner of quarts and then a canner of pints. Now you can put mixed size jars in a canner, so you can do quarts and pints. You will just have to do the canning time to the quarts. And quarts is 11 pounds pressure and 90 minutes in the canner. Pints is also 11 pounds pressure, 75 minutes. As always, please check your altitude charts, because if you're way above sea level, that might change for you. Then you let the canner cool all the way down, and then take off the weight, and then you can take out your jars. Okay, we're all done. It made 10 quarts and 10 pints out of this recipe, and we're gonna let it sit on the counter for 24 hours. Then I always remove the rings and store it. Always make sure to label your jars, because after a while, baked beans, chilies, all those kinds of things kind of look the same, and it can be difficult to tell what's in each jar if you don't label it well. We really like this dish. Just to open it up, warm it up, put a little cheese, maybe some sour cream on top, and it's good with a little bit of cornbread on the side, or just as it is. A lot of times we just eat this as lunch because it is pretty filling. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm going to try this recipe on your own, and we'll see you all next time.